It cannot go down, regardless of what's going on in the stock market, real estate, the economy.
The next election, regardless of which country it is,
politics,
that can, play wreak havoc with financial markets. It does every 4 years. It happens no matter what.
We work with folks who prefer that certainty. Let's talk a little bit about the Insured Retirement Guide, but let's support that with a couple of quick examples. So when you think about insured retirement, what comes up for you?
I would think that it's something that means that I'm going to have stable and consistent retirement, and that I can be assured and insured that there's going to be income coming in on a regular basis. And so that's what comes up for me. Now, granted, I have some inside knowledge there, but I think if anyone was just looking at the terminology of an insured retirement planning guide, they would allude to something like that. Wow, okay, so it's for retirement. It's something that's going to help me plan for that, meaning probably income, because we're talking about retirement, we're talking about income. And if we're using insurance, or if it's insured, that should mean that it's going to be stable and consistent. So to me, that those kind of things dovetail together. So I think the example we're going to talk about today on this video, Jay, is going to be really, really helpful for people who are interested in learning about what is an insured retirement and the different terminology that people use around that, and how could it work for someone? How could a Canadian participate in something like that?
When the process begins for somebody, when they think about retirement planning in general, what comes to mind for folks that we interact with is the process of accumulation. So how do I go about setting aside money so that eventually at some point down the road, I'm going to be utilizing it as retirement income or a supplement to other sources of retirement income? A common method that we see is registered retirement savings plans, or even non-registered accounts that people are investing in things like mutual funds, equities, the stock market, et cetera. So we're going to look at the Insured Retirement Planning Guide, and we're going to examine an actual case study and talk about it. And I think we'll be able to hit all of the different phases, as we go through that. So we're going to talk about Nasia. Now, Nasia is 45 years young, husband, 2 young children, and Nasia's objective was to have $39,000 in net annual retirement income from age 65 to age 90. Now, this is to supplement the total household retirement income. And Nasia decided that rather than put money into instruments like registered retirement savings plans, stocks, or mutual funds, Nasia decided to insure her retirement solution by depositing what she could have otherwise put in to an RSP. She decided to put that money into a participating dividend paying whole life insurance policy.
Just to recap that, Jay, what you're saying is she was going to be putting money into something anyway. She was saving already and had developed the habit of saving. She knew she needed to be contributing about $30,000 a year, which was already in her plan, to other things. So it was going to other mechanisms to invest for her retirement future. She's just taking those dollars and redirecting them now. And instead of it going to this thing over here, it's now going into this properly structured, well-structured dividend paying participating policy.
That's exactly correct. And if I may just expand on what you just shared. So the insurance company itself refers to it as a preferred retirement solution or an insured retirement plan. And so if that resonates, where a person says, okay, I know that I can engineer an outcome in terms of what I need and the time frame that I need it for. So if we go back to Nasia for a moment, she put that capital into that policy for a period of 10 years. So $300,000 went in the form of premium. That's the amount that went into the contract. Now, this contract comes along with contractual guarantees, one of which is that cash value, which is real value, begins accumulating inside of this policy on day one and continues accumulating every single day thereafter until Nasia either A, reaches age 100, or B, passes away. And so from age 65 to age 90, Nasia is able to access $39,827 every year from age 65 to age 90, tax-free. So not only has she insured her retirement plan, but she's also ensured that she's going to have access to money on a tax-free basis.
Now, this is really important. I'm glad that you said that, Jay, because you're watching this right now. You need to really be aware most other incomes that you're going to generate in a retirement phase of life are going to have income to it. You have if you have Canada pension plan, okay, great. You got to pay tax on that income. You have old age security, there's going to be some tax on that. You may have, if you're drawing down from registered accounts, you've been waiting to pay tax on those things. That CRA is going to get their pound of flesh.
Right.
There's all these other mechanisms out there. And if you can now supplement those other sources, whatever those other sources, maybe you have rental real estate, et cetera. That's going to be income generated. It's going to be taxable. All these other sources. Now, if you can access tax-free income, there's one of those sources you might be anticipating might be the old age security plan. Well, when you get up to a certain level of income, taxable income, they start to claw back that amount that you would receive. So this allows for very strategic planning because it can offset those other things, which means you can maximize some of the benefits that you would normally be receiving, and you can kind of play the game a little bit more because you can allow for this tax-free potential using the right structuring and coaching that are available to understand how this plan works.
Important to mention that in Nasia's case, when Nasia accessed the $39,827 per year, the money that she was receiving was not income. And so that speaks to exactly what you were describing, where you're not subjecting these other retirement income sources to the potential for clawback. So the total money out. So let's go back to what was put in. 300,000 went in over a 10-year window. And then from age 65 to age 90, 1,035,502 came out. That's far more than what went in. And if between day one and age 90, tax rates increased, so if there was the potential for and the eventual tax hike that was on the horizon, well, tax-free money becomes instantly more valuable. So in Nasia's case, she did very well, passed away at age 91, and left $586,682 to her beneficiaries, income tax-free. So ask yourself this question, Rich. Is it easier for Nasia to save $300,000 inside of a policy, or is it easier for Nasia to accumulate $1,035,502 inside of a mutual fund or an RSP?
Well, I think the answer is pretty clear, but here's the thing. The question, we need to actually elevate that question because, the $1 million in the RSP is the accumulation, but that's not the net amount received.
Right.
So in order to actually get the net equivalent of that million, she probably actually needed to have like 1.5 in that RSP, withdraw it, and then pay the tax in order to end up netting the equivalent value over that time horizon. There's also the component of market risk, which, the volatility there could have been up and down and that sort of thing. But we also have to now factor in that extra $500,000, almost $600,000 of tax-free windfall that showed up to bless her family or a cause that Nasia cares about, in this case, her family specifically. And that solves an awful lot of problems the day that we walk off planet Earth. So really, to be equivalent, we need to add that factor in there as well. And because it's tax-free, well, that means if it was all in a registered account, in order to net that almost $600,000, how much money would actually have to be still in the registered account to create a net value like that available to the beneficiaries? We would need about another $1 million around age 91 to be able to accomplish that objective. So the comparison and the question really isn't fair because there's actually a lot more additional capital value and necessary to create the same net objective.
Well, there's two other very important things that I'd like to say that complement what you just described. So the first would be, think about it from this vantage point. Would Nasia have rather had an engineered outcome that mitigates tax risk, mitigates market risk with certainty, or to hope for that outcome and have to recognize and assume volatility and not mitigate tax risk or market risk? Well, I think the answer is obvious. in that the insured retirement planning enables an engineered outcome. And if you know with absolute certainty what your account value is on any given day, and you know that that account value cannot go backward, it cannot go down, regardless of what's going on in the stock market, real estate, the economy,
the next election, regardless of which country it is,
politics,
that can, play wreak havoc with financial markets. It does every 4 years. It happens no matter what.
We work with folks who prefer that certainty and who know and recognize that when you have a tool and it's the best tool to get the job done, that if you put that tool in the hands of someone who's competent, who knows how to use it, not only are they going to turn out great work with the tool, but they're likely not going to break the tool. And so when we talk about an insured retirement planning guide, that guide is not only what's listed underneath this video in how we articulate what that means, but a guide also means a coach, having someone who can lead you through, make sure that you're mentored and that you're on track to achieve that engineered outcome. And so when you're considering the fact that at some point you may be planning to retire, whatever that looks like for you in your life, that you can either A, engineer an outcome with certainty, mitigating tax risk and market risk, or you can hope and pray for an outcome and ride that roller coaster of volatility. It's an either or.
And there's one really important thing I want to make sure that we identify, Jay. In the example that we use with Nausea, she really only put capital in for 10 years.
Right.
That only took her to 55. What happened? Did she just fall off planet Earth, and did income stop coming in? Did her husband stop working? Did they stop working as a family? Did they try to retire early? She didn't start drawing the income until 65. What was she doing for the next 10 years? Now, if Nadia had just continued to make deposits into that machine, she could have amplified all that income and all those benefits. So the important point is here, recognize that time is one of the most important factors that is working to your advantage and your disadvantage. It's to your advantage if you're putting capital away, if you're making deposits and you're doing it for over a long period of time, you're doing it consistently. If you've been waiting to start putting money away for retirement, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. The next best time is today. So you have to get started. Nothing happens until you get started.
If you found this video helpful, please don't hesitate to communicate it forward to someone who you think would benefit from the gift of this knowledge as well. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the article, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Don't forget to check out the recommended playlist in the next video coming up and continue your journey of learning.